All right, let's dive right into this explainer. We are constantly hearing about the labor shortage, right? It's everywhere. But today, we're zeroing in on a massive, unseen economic threat hiding just beneath the surface of this impending retirement wave. We're tracking exactly what happens when decades of hard earned expertise literally walk out the factory door. And more importantly, how we can stop that immense value from vanishing forever. This quote right here, it perfectly captures the crisis we're facing. We are looking at a massive, uncontrolled brain drain happening on a global scale. Think about it. Knowing exactly why a specific machine drifts out of tolerance every August, well, that knowledge doesn't actually belong to the company, does it? It belongs to the machinist. And we're about to run this incredibly risky, uncontrolled experiment roughly 2 million times over the next decade. To really ground this in financial reality, let's talk numbers. $260,000. That isn't a yearly salary. That is the staggering per-hour cost of unplanned downtime in heavy manufacturing sectors. Imagine a critical machine breaking down, and the only person who intuitively knew how to fix it is, well, enjoying their retirement on a beach somewhere. It completely transforms undocumented operational expertise from a nice-to-have bonus into a massive critical liability for the business. So here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the manufacturing workforce cliff, move into decoding tribal knowledge, take a look at why old manuals fail, discuss getting workers on board, and finish up with the digital solution payback. Starting things off with Section 1, the manufacturing workforce cliff. The sheer volume of this shift is just wild. By 2033, we're projecting 3.8 million manufacturing openings. But the crucial takeaway is that the vast majority of these, 2.8 million to be exact, are driven purely by demographic attrition. They're retiring. It's not just rapid industry expansion. Without a fundamental structural change in how we capture knowledge, almost 2 million of those roles are going to remain stubbornly unfilled. We simply cannot hire our way out of this demographic reality. And here's the kicker that shows exactly why hiring alone is a losing battle. Look at this drop in average frontline worker tenure. Back in 2019, someone might stay for 20 years. You had time for long apprenticeships. By 2023, that tenure plunged to just 3 years. The entire business model has fundamentally shifted beneath our feet. We now have to drastically accelerate the time to competency for new operators, who frankly might only stick around for 36 months. Let's move to Section 2, decoding tribal knowledge. So what actually is tribal knowledge? We're talking about the highly contextual, undocumented stuff, the micro adjustments. It's knowing the specific auditory cue, that slight grinding noise that happens right before a catastrophic machine failure. Or knowing exactly how to handle the weird quirks of a specific supplier's materials. A standard operating procedure might just say, tighten the bypass valve, but tribal knowledge is knowing exactly how much to tighten it today, based on the ambient humidity or the specific batch of raw materials on the floor. It's physical, it's hyper-contextual, and it is almost never linear. Which brings us to Section 3, why old manuals fail. Okay, picture this. It's 2 a.m. A critical asset on the line just faulted out, forcing an operator to abandon the production line, go find a computer, and dig through outdated binders or some disorganized internet portal for a 300-page PDF. I mean, that is a fundamental failure of the system. Generic platforms treat knowledge like a static library, mostly just for administrative compliance. But real knowledge on the factory floor, it's tied to a specific machine, running a designated material, exhibiting a completely unique failure mode. Because traditional wikis and generic learning management systems force a massive disconnect from the actual physical work. And what happens? You get high error rates, and workers just abandon the documentation entirely because it slows them down. Contrast that with modern, effective systems. They are dynamic, they're interactive, and they are embedded directly at the machine, right at the absolute point of need. So as a leader, how do you actually fix this? You really have to evaluate your options. You've got your basic corporate wikis, sure. Then you step up to packaged SaaS tools like Dozuki, which is great for ISO compliance, or VKS, which integrates beautifully with smart tools. But if you're in an environment with complex legacy equipment or highly specialized automation, you're probably going to outgrow those off-the-shelf limits pretty fast. That's exactly where custom capture software comes into play. Experts like Baytech Consulting can actually build specialized data pipelines using really robust enterprise infrastructure. This lets you serve up highly dynamic work instructions without ever forcing your team to abandon their established workflows. Moving on to Section 4, getting workers on board. Honestly, the technology is only half the battle. If you treat this purely as an administrative mandate, it is guaranteed to fail. We have to be deeply empathetic here. Veteran workers often and understandably fear that extracting the knowledge from their heads is a direct threat to their job security. We have to completely flip that narrative. Treat them as system architects. Give them ruggedized tablets with simple, one-touch video recording so they can correct flawed processes in real time. By publicly acknowledging their contributions and tying this to performance incentives, you transform knowledge capture from a threat into a genuine legacy-building exercise. Of course, if you try to digitize every single process tomorrow, you're just going to exhaust your team with initiative fatigue. Instead, smart operations executives use a risk matrix like this to pinpoint exactly where to start. Think about it. If you have a sole expert retiring in under 12 months and they handle a highly critical process that could literally cause a line stoppage, that is a screaming red flag. That requires immediate video capture. Using this matrix allows your deployment to be incredibly targeted and incredibly effective. Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, the digital solution payback. So what is the actual payoff here? When you treat knowledge capture as a true operational risk mitigation strategy, it yields a highly measurable return on investment. Manufacturers who actively digitize their shop floor standard operating procedures typically see an ROI of 3 to 10 times their initial investment, and they're seeing those returns within just 12 to 24 months. Let's break down where that ROI comes from. New operators are reaching proficiency up to 70% faster, literally cutting ramp time from months down to weeks. Defects rates? They drop by up to 90% because workers aren't trying to rely on memory to execute complex wiring diagrams. And crucially, having immediate point-of-need troubleshooting empowers newer operators to fix those minor microstops themselves without waiting around for senior maintenance. That alone reduces your incredibly expensive unplanned downtime by 20 to 50%. Ultimately, closing a labor shortfall of this magnitude requires a fundamental reframing of how we do business. We have to shift workforce readiness from an HR or administrative task into a true software architecture challenge. Implementing video-first, point-of-need capture systems, that is exactly how modern industry has to approach its human capital if it wants to secure operational continuity for the future. I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought to evaluate the true vulnerability sitting on your own factory floor right now. When your most experienced worker walks out the door for the last time, what exactly are they taking with them? If you can't answer that question with absolute certainty, the countdown on your workforce cliff has already started. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Now get out there and start capturing that knowledge.